It sends out the notifications. It does all the stuff. And then it takes like another minute to actually kick in. I'll have a little look. But how are we doing? Are we ready and raring to go? How are we all? Let me see if I can get the chat up for myself too. There we are. Hello, Timothy. Hello, Abar. Psych. How are we all doing? Avil. Sally's in there, of course. Antonia, good afternoon indeed. Sarah's also there. Morning, morning. Let's get into Monaco, shall we? Because there's a lot of discussion around this Grand Prix and the possible loopholes and bits and pieces that could come to into play. Hello, YS. Hello, Josh. Footy F1. Hello, hello. Footy F1 really spreading yourself there. Got both covered. Just in case you want to start a channel, you got two directions you can go in. Hello, Connor Baker. How are we all? Right. Shall we talk Monaco? Because it's going to be weird. I don't know if anybody saw the Formula 2 race. The Formula 2 race was eventful, to say the least. And I think just shows, you know, if there are safety cars, if there are crashes, if there are red flags, some of this mandatory two-stop shenanigans can sort of come into the fore. And pitting just at the right time. You know, if there is a red flag or there is a safety car, being that person who is right next to the pit entrance as that happens seems to just be the way to go. But we'll get into your predictions and then also talk about the possible twos and fros of strategy in Monaco. In terms of those predictions, of course, you can get yours in on a Monday of a race week. So tomorrow, you'll be able to get your predictions in for the Spanish Grand Prix. You get to predict who you think's going to win, who's going to be on the podium, your surprise package for the weekend, the best team of the weekend, and then, of course, some negatives, who you think's going to struggle, and maybe who might have a bit of a flop weekend. But let's get into yours. This was what you predicted. Considering the starting grid, not far off at all, really. A lot of people being very positive about the possibility of Charles Leclerc getting the win. Like, Charles Leclerc isn't normally in the discussions for the podium places, nor is he the good surprise. I don't know if, you know, you can classify Charles Leclerc as a good surprise often. I suppose with the Ferrari being the way it has been, you have to give him a little pinch of salt over the course of this season. But nonetheless, you guys have voted. Oscar Piastri getting the run ahead of Lando Norris, of course, starting the other way around. And in terms of the voting, Charles Leclerc came out as the second most likely driver to win, and therefore second place on the podium. Also being your surprise package, as I said before. So you're pretty close. Like, as podium predictions go, considering Max Verstappen isn't in there, and a lot of the time it is just the two McLarens and Verstappen. I'm not going to lie to you. As 99% of the predictions that we get in are the two McLarens and Verstappen. The fact that Charles Leclerc's broken in there, the fact that Charles Leclerc, you guys at least, were seeing the positivity even when Charles Leclerc wasn't. You know, they talked about it with Charles Leclerc a few days ago and he thought it was going to be an absolute disaster weekend. But you guys seeing the positive, seeing the prediction and going for Charles Leclerc, do appreciate it. Best team, being McLaren. I think that's just going to stay there until at least something changes at the top end of the grid. It's not even close. I think they got like 82% of the vote or something for being the best team. Remember, it doesn't necessarily need to be the team that you think will get the most points. Like, if Alpine get a double points finish, I would say that they're probably the best team of the weekend because it's unexpected. It's that expectation versus reality. Who you think is going to outdo their possible car, but everyone's just going for McLaren all the time at the minute, assuming they're probably going to get a 1-2 more often than not. Struggle, Lance Stroll. I mean, was given a one-place grid penalty and is starting pretty much at the back of the pack. Whether or not he'll be able to get back in there, though, because maybe starting at the back and those little loopholes that they are talking about the possibilities of happening, maybe, just maybe, Lance Stroll won't be a struggle after all. And Stakes Albert, again, just seem to always be right at the bottom of the rankings every single week. It sort of flicks a little bit. They sometimes get a little bit less of the vote, but they always get the majority of the vote, and therefore they are your flop team of the weekend. But of course, if you disagree with these, you can get your predictions in the comments. Throw them my way, and we'll go through some more predictions as we go. voted for Charles to win, not get P2. I do like so you get 3 votes. You get your top 3 effectively. You get your first place, second place, third place. You get to vote for all 3. And then I can tabulate all 3. So like Charles Leclerc did get quite a lot of votes for the win, which then put him in second place just because Oscar Piastri did get more votes for the win. And that's they do get tabulated in one way or another. It's worth sort of 3 points for first place, 2 points for second place, 1 place for third place. And then I work it out from there. Stroll has had a very Stroll weekend. Yeah, that's true, actually. Considering he's had a really good start to the season, remember? Like, he has got a lot of points on the board, considering the Aston Martin has been pretty much dreadful everywhere we have been. And Fernando Alonso still yet to score points. We're 8 rounds into the season now. Over a quarter of the way done. You wouldn't have expected Fernando Alonso to be this far adrift of Lance Stroll, but he is. So you've got to give Lance Stroll a little bit of a compliment there. Whether or not you give him too much of a compliment for this weekend so far, probably not. You know, nearly ruining Charles Leclerc's home Grand Prix is not the way to go. I think Lando 1, Charles 2, Verstappen 3. People still think Verstappen is going to be there. Even after qualifying yesterday, I've talked to a couple of people who still think Verstappen will be able to do something in this. Do you just... Maybe it's like the Red Bull strategists. Of course, Red Bull strategists have been brilliant over the last few seasons. I can completely understand why you'd have faith in the Red Bull strategists. But it does just feel a little bit like, are they really that likely to get Max Verstappen back onto the podium? Are we actually going to see some positions changing in this Monaco Grand Prix? Or is it going to be 78 laps of just absolutely nothingness? Like, could easily be an afternoon where we see 78 laps of the cars going round and round. Then they all stop and then round and then round. And it's all kind of not really much comes to fruition. We're hoping it's going to be big. We're hoping it's going to be good. And because they have thrown a little bit of a spanner in the works, we can also start to talk about whether or not we're going to see some weird strategy shenanigans. Like, Pirelli certainly think we're going to see some strategy shenanigans because this was their prediction at the top. 3 different sets of tyres to use in Monaco. With all the compounds in play, anything can happen. Like, that was their prediction for the strategy. You know, usually they say, oh, the 2 stop will be like this, the 1 stop will be like this. The prediction, you know, if you start on the mediums, it's likely you'll go this far. If you start on the hards, you'll likely go this far. This is what they predicted. Thanks, Pirelli. Like, absolutely no information there whatsoever. We do know we've got 78 laps of the Monaco circuit. We do know it's going to be really easy on the tyres and really difficult to overtake. So it then starts to sort of come into that aspect of is everybody just going to wait for some kind of safety car to pit stop? If there is a safety car and you know that safety car is going to last for a couple of laps, do you pit back to back? You know, do you just come in, swap your tyres, come in again, swap your tyres back? Maybe, like, you could easily do a 2 stop, but in back-to-back laps, and therefore you don't have to worry about everything else. Of course, you'd lose 40 seconds over the course of that sort of 2-3 lap stint that you've got. But if there's a safety car, you can catch back up. Everybody else has to still pit again. You never know. Like, that could definitely become a little bit of a problem. Max turning on mad mode is an 8+ race pace cheat code. Have to endorse the unpredictable side to convince people it will be interesting. Yeah, maybe they have done that, right? Maybe they've just thrown it out there to be like, it will be good. We've made this decision for a reason. And they don't actually or they do actually know what it will be like, but they're not giving too much away. I did think it was interesting that the FIA did close off a couple of loopholes as well. The fact that even with the 2 mandatory stops, so if you come in on the formation lap, that doesn't count towards your 2 mandatory stops. So that kind of is out of the window. Whereas normally you can come in on the formation lap and sort of pit as the race starts, if that makes sense, or pit on effectively what is lap 0 of the race. They said that you can't do that. You have to go through the timing, so you have to go past the start finish line before you can then switch on to a set of another set of tires. I think that also then stops people from trying to loophole it around red flags or anything like that. So if you were to have a red flag, then you wouldn't be able to swap tires and then swap tires back and then things like that inside of like whether you're right at the beginning of the pit lane, just as like the yellow flags start to be waved and you know a red flag is coming, for instance. So they've also closed off that kind of loophole to basically say, like, if a red flag does intervene, like two red flags over the course of the race, then no strategy calls will be needed. But one red flag somewhere in there, you can't just get both of your pit stops done in and around that same red flag. Please still watch the race. It's not like you can pass on Monaco. That's very true. I mean, the Indy 500 later on, so it's a bit of a build up to that. You got to get into your racing brain. Any chance of rain? Doesn't look like it. And from what I can see from the race telemetry, it is not looking like there is any chance of rain anytime soon. In fact, let me just load up the track map and things like that so I can see for definite. No, it is saying no chance of rain. Air temperature 21.4 degrees. So it is looking fairly warm and pretty sunny in Monaco. So yeah, unfortunately, no rain at the moment. Martin Brundle is doing his best to try and find as many celebrities as possible because that's pretty much what this one's all about. And he knows that, so he's running around. Here we go. Lovely. We are about to see the Monaco national anthem. I do think it's interesting, though. They've gone super soft as well. It's not like they could have done anything more with the tyres. The C6 compound being seen once again is a little bit crazy. What's the starting grid order? Great question. Here you are. Interesting, you know, Colapinto goes up a couple of places because of that grid penalty. Lewis Hamilton, 3-place grid penalty for him as well. The sort of movers and shakers. We knew Ollie Behrman had a 10-place penalty beforehand. So he was always going to be effectively starting from the back of the grid unless it was an absolutely barnstorming qualifying from him. Although Esteban Ocon did have a pretty good qualifying, but Ocon's pretty good around Monaco. Being on the podium a couple of years ago, of course. Starting from the top, though, Lando Norris took pole position yesterday from Charles Leclerc on that second and final flying lap. It was milliseconds of milliseconds that we were looking at between the top three, but Lando Norris getting there. And you always want to start on pole position in Monaco. It is the place to be. Unless you're Charles Leclerc. Well, apart from last year. Charles Leclerc did win last year at least, but he's had some curses along the way. Charles Leclerc does start second place just behind him in his home Grand Prix, a year on from that famous victory here in Monaco. Oscar Piastri was behind Charles Leclerc last year, and he's behind Charles Leclerc once again, this time in third spot though. Max Verstappen starts from fourth place. As I say, Lewis Hamilton given that 3-place grid penalty, so now down into 7th place, promoting Max Verstappen, promoting Isaac Hadjar, and also promoting Fernando Alonso. Surely Fernando Alonso is going to get his first points of the season. Isaac Hadjar still best of the rest at the moment, and looking incredible at the moment is Isaac Hadjar. I think all the flowers have to be given to the Frenchman for, again, being the second fastest Red Bull car, and again, sitting right behind Max Verstappen in and amongst the top drivers. Like, that is where you would hope and pray Yuki Tsunoda would be in that second car, but it is not. It is Isaac Hadjar right behind Max Verstappen. A lot of people saying that Hadjar, Verstappen are kind of in the running for a podium place here, though, because of the way that the strategies will play out. You kind of want to be in maybe 4th, 5th, 6th, because you can be a little bit more reactive, or you can be, sorry, a bit more proactive. Whereas the guys at the front in first, second, and third, because they will be wanting to hang on to those podium places, you maybe want to be a bit more reactive to what's going on and how things are playing out. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens between those top runners. I think also the fact that we've got the tyres that we just talked about and how those are going to play out. Like Piastri only has one set of mediums. Norris has one set of mediums. Leclerc has one set of mediums. Whereas Verstappen, I think... Oh, no, sorry, it's Hamilton. Hamilton doesn't have any sets of fresh mediums at all to play with. He's got a used set that he can still play. Lots of people with some soft tyres available to them, though. Piastri and Norris still have both 2 sets of hard compound tyres. Leclerc and Hamilton only 1 set of hard compound tyres. Verstappen only 1 set of hard compound tyres as well. So the hard compound tyres are a little bit more available to the McLarens if they do want to go hard at any point. Mediums a little bit harder to come by. Like everyone's got kind of 1 set of mediums until you get to Kimi Antonelli, who has 2 sets of mediums available to him. Just seeing where Isaac Hadjar is. Isaac Hadjar doesn't even have a new set of hard compound tyres, but does have 4 sets of softs, does Isaac Hadjar. So he's definitely got a little bit of a weird strategy at play there. Same with Liam Lawson, actually. Both of the RBs burning through their hard compound tyres seemingly during the free practice sessions. Lewis Hamilton then does start from 7th place because of that impeding of Max Verstappen and that 3-place penalty dropping him to 7th. Esteban Ocon starts in 8th place, has been on the podium here before. Would not discount Esteban Ocon, has some quality around these Monaco streets. Liam Lawson starts in 9th place. Alex Albon starting inside of the points in 10th. So a little bit low for Alex Albon, considering where he's been over the course of the season so far. Really has sort of cemented himself as best of the rest, hasn't he, Alex Albon? 40 points on the board for the season so far, but not quite there this weekend. And Monaco is a very one-off track. It's very specific. It doesn't really tell you where the race or where the race pace of these cars actually is, to be honest. Like, you can be good in Monaco and then bad literally everywhere else because it is so specific and so different to everywhere else, so slow speed. So Alex Albon, I don't think will take too much negativity from the fact that he's starting 10th. He is starting just ahead of Carlos Sainz in 11th place. Oh, they're talking to Ollie Behrman. Ollie Behrman discussing and saying that he's actually quietly hopeful from 20th place, knowing that the 2-stop strategy, there could be some twos and throws and some mix-ups there. I suppose 20th place, he's got absolutely nothing to lose by pitting super early and then maybe trying to make up that time. Maybe pitting onto like a set of softs and then hoping for a safety car midway through the race or something along those lines. Like, I think there's not really too much to lose when it comes to Ollie Behrman pitting very early indeed. That could be a choice that he makes. But we were up to Carlos Sainz. Carlos Sainz starting in 11th place. Hello, Yuki Fan 2022. How are you doing? Or just Yuki Fan 22, actually. Don't know why it was 2022. I don't imagine you were born in 2022. Maybe you've been a Yuki fan since 2022. Which would be a bit of an awkward year to join the Yuki fandom, considering the first year was not amazing. But there we are. Yuki Tsunoda starting in 12th place, just behind Carlos Sainz. Again, really not too much for him to lose, to be honest. And therefore, we might see a weird strategy call from Yuki Tsunoda at some point, or at least a weird strategy gamble, right? Because again, if he finishes 12th, if he finishes 20th, it doesn't really matter that much in the grand scheme of things, and it's not going to affect his... Yeah, I know, the 22 is for Yuki. I got it. Stroll is leaving. I don't think so. I haven't seen that news. I feel like that news would have been pretty big, unless you've got an inside scoop. unless you're predicting, like Louis is, a Stroll crash. But yeah, Yuki Tsunoda, 12th place. I think you might as well just go for it, right? Might as well just go for something real weird. Again, could do what I've just said about Ollie Behrman. Maybe pit like super early on and then try and do something else. Hulkenberg starting in 13th place. Kind of inherited that from both of the Mercedes cars having an absolute nightmare in Q1 and Q2. Well, end of Q1, start of Q2. So both of the Mercedes cars, again, 14th, 15th place. Could they do something a bit strange from there? Possibly. George Russell, I think, will be most disappointed because he's had such a good season so far. Has been really good in qualifying as George Russell. And this is the one race where you need qualifying to be absolutely spot on. And his car just gave up on him. So he didn't get the qualifying that he needed. Antonelli, a little bit frustrating, just got a bit greedy. You know, still showing that he has got those rookie rough around the edges crashes in him. Gabriel Bortoleto starts 16th place. Again, slightly disappointing, I guess, for him. He would have maybe wanted to be a little bit closer to Nico Hulkenberg. But I think we're just seeing with, especially Bortoleto, Colapinto, Behrman to an extent as well, that it is really tricky for those rookies, unless you're Isaac Hadjar, who's absolutely flying at the moment. Stroll always crashes at Monaco. Put a bet on it, you get money. He does, I think, there's a few drivers that have a little bit of a record around here. I think especially with all of the rookies as well, there's got to be a safety car at some point. And I think that's what a lot of the cars will be gambling on, to be honest. There's got to be a safety car at some point. And if you can pit under the safety car and save yourself about 10 seconds, you will be absolutely flying. Like, you'll be going to the bank, rubbing your hands together because the points will come tumbling towards you. So I think that's what everyone's going to be gambling on, is there being a safety car at some point. If it is Lance Stroll, it would play into everybody else's hands. Because he is starting right at the back of the pack. Pierre Gasly and Colapinto starting 17th and 18th. Really kind of frustrating for Alpine, considering how good they were in Monaco last year and the year before, actually. So not really the Alpine's day yesterday. Lance Stroll does start 19th after a one-place grid penalty. And then Ollie Behrman drops to 20th place because of that 10-place grid penalty. Just joined what happened to Hamilton. 3-place grid penalty for impeding Max Verstappen yesterday during qualifying. That incident as they were going up the hill towards turn 3, and where Hamilton was told on the radio, not really Hamilton's fault, right? Because Hamilton was told on the radio, oh, Max is coming. Oh, no, don't worry, Max is going slowly. And Max was not going slowly. So, yeah, not really Lewis Hamilton's fault, but you have to punish somebody, right? You can't be getting in the way of drivers like that. And, yes, Ferrari, bit of a Ferrari fumble rather than a Lewis Hamilton fumble in that case. But you have to punish the car. It is a team sport at the end of the day, even though it does feel like, you know, the Formula One drivers are very solo inside of the car. There is the thousands of people working on the car behind the scenes and the rest of the team that are there, and anybody makes a problem. It's a bit like being, if you're like an unsafe release. It's not really the driver's fault because the driver can't see what's behind them. If they're released by their engineer, then they go. So an unsafe release is a bit harsh on the driver as well, but it has to be there as well. And therefore, yeah, Lewis Hamilton, a bit unlucky. I do feel a bit bad for him, but has to be given a penalty nonetheless. Otherwise, you just have sort of weird loopholes in the rules where you can get in the way of a driver if and when and how. We just want consistency when it comes to those kind of classifications. Final little rundown then. Again, a little reminder of your guys' predictions. If you want to get your predictions in, you can tomorrow morning for the Spanish Grand Prix as part of this back-to-back triple header that we have got. And if you could, just before we get started, hit that like button, subscribe maybe if you are new as well. And it is going to be absolute chaos. Like, I feel like this is worth sticking around for just because even Pirelli are saying anything could happen. And if Pirelli is saying anything could happen and they're supposed to be in charge of the tyres, anything could happen, especially if there's a red flag or a safety car. The complete chaos that would cause. I mean, Formula 2, yeah, if you saw, there was a complete pile-up on the first lap. Took like 7 cars out of the race. Not quite out, I don't think it's 5 or 6 out of the race. But huge pile-up in the Formula 2 race right at the start of the Grand Prix. Maybe we'll see that. Maybe we'll see Charles Leclerc have a little bit of a dive bomb on Lando Norris. Although it was the other way around, actually, wasn't it? It was Martins has got ahead and then was just wiped out of the outside. So it would be the same as if Charles Leclerc got ahead of Lando Norris on the start and then Norris just wiped into the side of him, which could certainly happen. But 78 laps, strategy all over the place, could certainly go any which way. Lando Norris starts at the front of it. Charles Leclerc, Oscar Piastri starting on the podium places. Verstappen, Hadjar, Alonso, Hamilton, Ocon, Lawson, Albon starting inside of the point-scoring places. Sainz, Tsunoda, Hülkenberg, Russell, and Antonelli, the 5 drivers that dropped out in Q2 yesterday. Bortoletto, Gasly, Colapinto, Stroll, and Behrman starting at the back of the pack. Here we go. Some tyres are finally coming in. That's what I was waiting for. Ooh, front 3, all starting on the mediums. Verstappen starting on the hards, so possibly going a little bit longer, although feels like a set of mediums could probably get you all the way to the end, to be honest. Hadjar on the medium, Alonso on a slightly scrubbed set of hards, Hamilton on the hards, Ocon on the medium, Lawson starts on a scrubbed set of softs, so is going for something a little bit crazy off the start line. Albon also a slightly scrubbed set of mediums, Sainz fresh set of hards, Tsunoda on a fresh set of softs in 12th place. Hülkenberg 13th, set some mediums. Hard for the 2 Mercedes cars. Medium for Bortoletto, medium for Gasly, hard for Colapinto, hard for Lance Stroll. Ooh, slightly scrubbed set of hards for Lance Stroll, and Ollie Behrman on the medium tyre at the back. I think that's enough to show you that it's going to be a bit of a weird race, isn't it? The fact that we've got so much mixture in there, a real mix of scrub sets as well, and drivers deciding on what they want. Could really go any which way. Right, let's get on to... I can't remember which board we said we preferred. Was it this one? This is why I shouldn't have made multiple. I think it was this one. Let's go for this one for now. We'll start with this and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, that's a real mix in the top 10. Interesting that Tsunoda is starting on soft as well. Want to see what Yuki Tsunoda does from that position. Does he just pit super early? Does he just like go completely off the wall? I'm not sure. Franz Herrmann starting 4th place. One of the most decorated Formula 1 drivers in the world, Franz Herrmann. But has kindly let Max Verstappen take his place for this one. Bigger track map equals better. Thanks, Josh. Appreciate it. Surely Alonso's first points of the year. Yeah, you got a good point. Has to be now. He started in the top 10 again. Like, he started 5th last time out. Still managed not to get any points on the board. Oh, my timing screen is a little bit behind my live feed. Let me apply that and see. Just before we get going. I'm late. You're right on time, my friend. You are right on time. We are just about to get underway. I'm just going to set the timing screen a little bit because it was a little bit behind my actual feed. So I'll just line that up so that we can see. Is Verstappen going down to turn 5? Not quite. Give that a tiny little bit of a delay there. There we go. Now we're lined up. Final opportunity before the race gets underway. Let's hit that like button, maybe the subscribe button as well, on our way to 130,000 subscribers. There is about 400 of us in the chat, so surely 400 likes is more than possible as we get towards the end of this formation lap. Nobody's starting from the pit lane this time around. All 20 cars will be on the grid. So Ollie Behrman, the final car that needs to take their grid slot, just coming around to turn 5, Ollie Behrman, which does go to show just how tight this Monaco track is, and also how short this Monaco track is. The only track on the calendar that is allowed to be this short, has special dispensation for being so much smaller than the rest. But we are seeing Lando Norris get to the end of his formation lap. Second in the championship, 13 points behind his teammate, remember. A victory here. If Piastri did come third, that would close that gap all the way to 3 points. And even though Piastri has won 3 more Grand Prix than Lando Norris, would be cut to 2 more Grand Prix than Lando Norris, he would still be leading the championship, but only by 3 points with Piastri. Just watching Isaac Hadjar taking his position. Hamilton, Ocon, Lawson and Albon all start inside of the points scoring places as well. Ollie Behrman is just making his way around turn 18 and 19. And we are all ready and raring to go. Could be. I mean, if you saw the Formula 2 start, you know exactly how chaotic it can possibly be. There is the green flag being waved as Ollie Behrman comes to a complete stop. 5 red lights. And we are going to get underway for 78 laps in Monaco. It's a good start from Lando Norris. He does get away quite well. Max Verstappen is going to go. Oh, it is a big lockup from Lando Norris. But he just about manages to get around turn 1. Ooh, that was nearly Lando Norris and Charles Leclerc into the barriers. Charles Leclerc, though, looks underneath the rear wing of Lando Norris again. That would have been a scary little lockup for Lando Norris, but does manage to get through fairly comfortably in the end. Piastri still third, Verstappen fourth, Hadjar fifth. Alonso, Hamilton, Ocon, Lawson, Albon, all stern abreast as they were at the start. Coming down towards turn 6, the very, very slowest corner on the entire calendar. Yuki Tsunoda is trying to have a little look as George Russell is battling with Bortoleto. Antonelli manages to get along these. Oh, and Bortoleto is sent into the barriers. And that is surely going to be a safety car or even a red flag, as Bortoleto is into the barriers as he was battling with Kimi Antonelli. The 2 rookies side by side, and you just can't really go side by side, unfortunately. Down turn 8. Oh, Bortoleto's got back going. Track clear, green flags. So luckily, nobody dove into the pits. Lando Norris just making his way past the pit entrance. I thought that was going to be done and dusted for Bortoleto. He was deep in the barriers, but seems to have been able to reverse that car and get it back again. Don't know whether there'll be any debris on the track down there. Yuki Tsunoda does come in early, and it's a virtual safety car. It's a virtual safety car. Yuki Tsunoda is in. Gasly and Behrman also. So this could play into Yuki Tsunoda's hands perfectly. This is what I was talking about with the virtual safety car, or a safety car coming out at just the right time for those drivers to dive into the pits. Tsunoda dove into the pits. The virtual safety car came out. And now Yuki Tsunoda has the benefit of pitting under the virtual safety car conditions. So does Gabriel Bortoleto, who brought out the virtual safety car. Oh, it's a really slow stop for Ollie Behrman. There seems to have been there's a mix-up with Ollie Behrman's tyres. Oh, and Bortoleto's just caught out. Basically, Antonelli gets up ahead of Bortoleto. Bortoleto tries to go around the outside at 6, has the place, then up the inside at 7, but Antonelli then comes back at him, and Antonelli just closes the gap, and Bortoleto's, kind of got nowhere to go, really, apart from into the barriers. So the virtual safety car is still deployed, and Lando Norris is making his way around. They are looking at the pit stops. We're looking at Tsunoda, Gasly, Behrman and Bortoleto with the 4 that pit under the virtual safety car conditions. Is Lando Norris going to go for it? He doesn't. Decides to stay out anyway. We are watching Piastri come past, Hadjar as well. Interesting, because Yuki Tsunoda was in 12th place, dropped down to 17th, but has got one of those mandated pit stops done. And maybe that's why he started on the softs. Maybe that was his plan all along. And the virtual safety car just played into it, because as he pulled into the pits, the virtual safety car dropped. So those who have pitted are getting that benefit. It's not quite the benefit of, a full safety car. Tsunoda is still a little bit adrift of Lance Stroll and having to slow down even more to stick to the delta, it looks like. And it's just, do you want to go in and sacrifice the tyres that you're on? Probably not. And I think that's what a lot of drivers have decided upon, right? They're like, well, I kind of want these tyres for a little bit longer because they're one of my better sets of tyres. Yeah, looking at the barrier there, down at turn 8 where Bortoletto's car was. Is Piastri intentionally running a gap ahead? Maybe trying to get into a little bit of clean air, but I can't imagine so, if I'm honest. I mean, still waiting for this Tech Pro barrier to be confirmed as safe. It is down at turn 8. So Bortoletto has just made his way past, so they should be able to get working on it now. But the problem is Lando Norris is making his way up towards turn 3 already. So they haven't got too long to actually reposition the barrier properly and get that little bit of debris off of the racetrack. Still under virtual safety car conditions, though. Oh, my goodness. Seeing that lock up again from Lando Norris was very, very tight indeed. And Oscar Piastri was also under pressure from Verstappen. Verstappen nearly around the outside of Piastri. Piastri eventually, though, able to close the door as they made their way up the hill. Kimi Antonelli was up the inside of Bortoletto. Bortoletto got round at turn 6, but then Kimi up the inside at turn 8 and just kind of sent Bortoletto into no man's land. Could have been a much bigger accident had Bortoletto committed a little bit more, actually. And the virtual safety car is now going to end. And the virtual safety car is done. Track clear, and it's all a go again. Lando Norris leads then as we head towards lap 5 of this Grand Prix. Charles Leclerc is still in second spot. Piastri has dropped a couple of seconds adrift in third place. Whether he's just looking for a little bit of clean air. The problem, I just don't think the tyres will really have that much to go off of, to be honest. I think they will last pretty much the entire race if you wanted them to. But we have got Tsunoda, Gasly and Behrman, as well as Bortoletto, to keep a little bit of an eye on as to where they will slot in, having already pitted. Tsunoda is the main one I'm keeping a little bit of an eye on. His last lap, a 1:33.0, but Norris's was mainly under the safety car. So let's see Lando Norris's first real lap of pace versus Tsunoda's first lap of pace. And I think really for Tsunoda's benefit, we're looking at the guys from sort of Hadjar backwards to see whether or not there'll be anything that can play into their favour. Yuki Tsunoda gambling a little bit, I guess, on the possibility of there not being too much chaos within the next few laps and being able to gain by being in that clean air. Let's see, Lando Norris is going to come across the start-finish line. He's in the 118s. It's a 118 dead and a 118.8 from Charles Leclerc. So we need to see similar kind of pace, if not better, from Yuki Tsunoda. Probably not better, considering Lando Norris is in clean air also and in a McLaren. But that then does just give us an idea of whether or not that pit from Yuki Tsunoda was a good idea or just an interesting choice. So 118.6 from Yuki Tsunoda. Everybody else in the 120s. So Tsunoda going 2 seconds quicker than some of the guys ahead of him. And if he is able to close in that gap, I mean, that could be pretty much perfect from Tsunoda, especially if there is no more safety cars or big stops in this race. I mean, Norris and Leclerc just looking to get a pit stop advantage off their own by the looks of things, disappearing off into the distance. Verstappen and Hadjar also being left slightly adrift of Piastri. Piastri's in a little bit of a land all by himself at the moment. And it's just a little bit of a chess match almost at this moment in time. You can see Yuki Tsunoda is closing in on the back of Lance Stroll and is getting those lap times in. The problem is Yuki Tsunoda will eventually get to the back of Lance Stroll, and then the lap times start to match because you just can't go any quicker than the person in front of you. Gasly also holding on to the tail of Tsunoda. Those two going around as a little pair. Of course, used to be teammates at that second Red Bull team. Both have gone on since then. Tsunoda promoted to the main team. Gasly is now the main man at Alpine. Colapinto up into 15th after the drivers have pitted. Lance Stroll is the last of the drivers on the racetrack that have yet to have stopped. Tsunoda, Gasly, Behrman and Bortoleto all did. Behrman, Bortoleto still quite far adrift though after they had issues during their pit stops. Behrman pit with an issue with his tyres. Bortoleto and Ollie Behrman has just gone a 114.8. Okay, Ollie Behrman has just gone sort of 3 or 4 seconds faster than anybody else. Is 5 seconds faster than those guys setting the 120s in the midfield pack. So Ollie Behrman has clearly done some calculations in his head and is absolutely going for it inside of that Haas car. Does need to close that gap. Is still 34 seconds off the leader is Ollie Behrman, but you take 20 seconds, 14, he'd be in and around Liam Lawson at this point. If Liam Lawson were to stop, he would come out around about where Behrman is now. So Behrman having done a pit stop and absolutely flying now could actually massively play into his favour. Tsunoda's doing 119, so he's matching the race leaders. Alonso's in the 120s, Lawson then in the 121s. We are starting to get a little bit of a spread in terms of this grid. We've got kind of a front two, Piastri and Verstappen, and then Hadjar sort of separating themselves out a little bit. But Ocon is staying with Hamilton, where Lawson is starting to fall backwards a touch. And Yuki Tsunoda is having a problem, I think, because Gasly has just gone past him. What's happened to Yuki Tsunoda here? Or has Gasly gone super deep into turn 10? I think so, because Gasly... Oh, and Gasly's had an issue. Gasly's had a crash. Has Gasly hit the back of Yuki Tsunoda? He must have done something. He's either clipped the inside of turn 10 or he's hit into the back of Yuki Tsunoda coming out of the tunnel. This could be a big, big hit because Gasly got no brakes. He is going to be able to roll this car back to the pits, I think. As Bortoleto tries to make his way past, that's not going to help out Gasly at all. Gasly has got his car back to the pits. He is going to be out of this race, is Pierre Gasly. Oh. I think he's hit into the back of Yuki Tsunoda. We still haven't got a replay of that. Oh, there's a lot of debris there at the exit of turn 11. And Max Verstappen is having a little go on Oscar Piastri in and amongst the double-waved yellows. Gasly has absolutely no brakes as well, so is having to be stopped by some other mechanics in the pit lane. Wow. Double waved yellows then at turn 10 and turn 11. There is debris on the racetrack. Bortoletto has just made his way past, so hopefully they can jump onto the track and move that piece of Gasly's front wing. Here we go. We're finally getting a replay of it. Through the tunnel they came, down in towards turn 10. And Gasly, I think, does just lose brakes by the looks of things, because he just sends his Alpine into the back of Yuki Tsunoda's Red Bull. It doesn't feel like there's anything he could have done about it, because he then continues in a complete straight line, nearly takes his teammate out, does Pierre Gasly, but just about avoids Colapinto. And just could not slow down by the looks of things. It's not helped Yuki Tsunoda in all of this. Tsunoda, a 119.6 from him. And there must have been a problem with that Alpine, because he just veers straight into the back of Tsunoda and then also doesn't stop as he goes across turn 10. I mean, he's damaged. Front wing comes off and the front left tire also completely dislodged. And nobody can pit, I don't think, because Gasly's car is there in the way. Putting a new front wing on so that they can actually lift Pierre Gasly's car onto the dolly wheels. And hopefully Pierre Gasly's car will be moved out of the way shortly. Bit of a weird one, this one, isn't it? Just wasn't expecting that to come into play at all. But there we are. And now Max Verstappen also saying that he's not very happy with how he's been treated by Oscar Piastri. I think they did get very, very close to touching, the two. Pit lane entry is now reopened as Pierre Gasly's car has been moved off of the pit entrance, or off of the pit lane, sorry. So people can now stop once again. And we are getting a little bit of grouping now. Norris and Leclerc have disappeared away from Piastri. Piastri did say after qualifying yesterday, what just happened to my mic? Oh, I don't know. Apologies. Has it sorted itself out now? My ears. So sorry. I didn't touch anything. Apologies. I don't know what happened. I'll have a little look after the fact. My voice is breaking, having audio issues. Hang on. Let me reset my microphone. There we go. I've reset it all. Hopefully it'll be okay now. Just keeping you all engaged, you know. Lap 12, there hasn't been too much that's really happened. Just keep it. Sorry. Let me see. I mean, it's all plugged in as normal. Not sure. Still cutting. Ah! There's no issue with the mic. Ah, people are saying different things. I'm trying. Just a momentary thing. Okay. I'll take it. This is Oh, hello, Scale Tipper / Mallory. Maybe I knocked something. Not sure. Anyway, let's get back to the race, shall we? As we are watching Alex Albon also try and have a little run at Liam Lawson. Similar across front left abrasion, Lando Norris being told on the radio, but similar to all the cars that we care about. It's a bit harsh, isn't it? Surely you should care about everybody. Oh, Colapinto into the pits for Alpine. So Colapinto decides to come in. I'm still keeping an eye on Yuki Tsunoda. He is now a second behind Lance Stroll. Ollie Behrman has also been absolutely flying throughout those last few laps, is within a second of Yuki Tsunoda. So those guys have caught up to the back of this pack. The problem is the back of this pack only goes to Liam Lawson, because Liam Lawson is going so much slower than all of the cars ahead. You're seeing Ocon, Hamilton and Alonso completely escape away from the RB. And Isaac Hadjar is also going to box by the looks of things. Alex Albon starting to get frustrated behind the rear wing of Liam Lawson, you can tell, because he is right up underneath the rear wing of him, but there's just no way past. Here comes Isaac Hadjar. Was Liam Lawson playing the team game maybe and just opening up a bit of a gap for Isaac Hadjar to pit into, because Liam Lawson is going to come out behind Isaac Hadjar. Was that a little bit of team play there? That does seem quite interesting that Liam Lawson is the car that is so far adrift of the rest in terms of pace. And then also Isaac Hadjar has been the one to come out just in front of him on a fresh set of soft compound. Oh no, sorry, a slightly scrubbed set of soft compound tyres. Interesting from RB there. Possibly a little bit of a foul play, but we won't accuse them of that yet. Plan B, stay with Norris, is what Charles Leclerc has been told. Okay, copy. Charles Leclerc is going to continue pushing then. He is a couple of seconds adrift of Lando Norris in this. Piastri has been able to get away from Verstappen. That was a real back and forth between those two. Alonso still running now in 5th place. Isaac Hadjar has slotted into 8th, but is now going to have soft compound tyres and is going to be running in lovely clean air. Let's see what Isaac Hadjar can do, actually, as Hadjar is going to be finishing a lap. Hadjar's it's still the lap that he pitted on. So this lap is the first real lap that we'll get to see Isaac Hadjar's proper pace compared to the rest of the front. Like, if he can start putting in some lap times and close that gap, he's 31 seconds adrift of Lando Norris. Is still well within 20 seconds of Fernando Alonso, which is where he pitted from. I think this could play very nicely indeed for Isaac Hadjar. That gap opened perfectly for him to pit into. It's just whether or not the other cars in and around where Hadjar was will also take that opportunity at some point. Hadjar coming down towards turn 11 now. Lando Norris has started another flying lap. He's going up towards turn 3. Leclerc and Piastri as well. Alonso does come in to cover off Isaac Hadjar by the looks of things. So Alonso is into the pits. Is Hadjar going to come out ahead of Alonso? Ocon is also in. So that group of cars that was running Hadjar, Alonso, Ocon, Hamilton. Hamilton has stayed out by the looks of things though. Hadjar has remained ahead of Fernando Alonso. And Alonso comes out in 7th place just behind. But it is Isaac Hadjar with a 1:15.9. It's not quite the pace of the leaders, it has to be said. So Hadjar not really gaining on, the podium places or anything like that, but still looking certainly good for best of the rest is Isaac Hadjar. So Isaac Hadjar A nice little stop there. Alonso and Ocon covered it off. Lewis Hamilton didn't, is the thing. So Hamilton has got to be putting in some good lap times now. He was about equal to Isaac Hadjar's last lap. Needs a quicker time, does Lewis Hamilton, to really cement himself into that top 5 and try and jump the likes of the cars behind him who have now pitted. Norris is going fast again, sets another fast lap. Lando Norris, a 1:14.6, maybe showing that they are burning towards the end of those tyres for Lando Norris. He's been given the go-ahead to just absolutely fly on them. George Russell having a look at the back of Carlos Sainz. Ooh. And Alonso not very happy at all inside of the Aston Martin car by the sounds of things. Just behind Isaac Hadjar. I think they're trying to sort of keep within that pitting range of Lewis Hamilton, but Hamilton flying a 1:14.9 surely is going to give Hamilton the advantage to get back up into the top 5 at least. Hadjar, Alonso, Ocon behind. Then there's a big gap to Lawson. Lawson has allowed those guys to all pit and come out still ahead of him. Lance Stroll comes into the pit. Ollie Behrman has come in for a second time. So Ollie Behrman has got his 2 pit stops done. And that's another thing we need to continue to keep an eye on, is who's pitted and how many times, because we do need 2 pit stops. Hamilton comes in. Hamilton does come in. So it's whether or not Hamilton is going to be able to jump the likes of Hadjar and Alonso, or whether he's still going to come out around Ocon. I think he's going to get out ahead of Isaac Hadjar here. I think Hamilton did those laps absolutely perfectly when he was given the opportunity to do so. Hadjar's coming around turn 19. Hamilton coming towards the end of the pit lane. And Hamilton is going to come out ahead of Isaac Hadjar. Is perfectly worked out for Lewis Hamilton. He has managed to get himself ahead of those midfield cars that he dropped behind because of that grid penalty. And if you're a Lewis Hamilton fan, it's been a very good pit stop window for that gang of 4. Hamilton is now at the front of it. Hadjar 6th, Alonso 7th, and Ocon now 8th. And we're seeing movement at the McLaren garage. Is this going to be Lando Norris coming in? Norris gets the box call and does pull in. Our race leader is now pitting. Lando Norris into the pits. Smooth pit stop from the McLaren team. Does release Leclerc, Piastri and Verstappen surely as well. But Lando Norris is going to come out still ahead of Lewis Hamilton, who has already pitted by a considerable margin. So Lando Norris running in 4th place, but has completed 1 of his 2 mandatory pit stops. Charles Leclerc now leading the Monaco Grand Prix. But for how long? Hadjar gets the box call, and Hadjar has come in for his 2nd stop. Hadjar's into the pits. Another set of hard compound tyres going on to Isaac Hadjar's car after a very short stint on the softs. And Hadjar realising that he can maybe still get out in front of his teammate here. And Isaac Hadjar has done both of his pit stops and is still comfortably running in the point scoring places. So Isaac Hadjar and RB have played this lovely little strategy game with Liam Lawson, it feels like. Lawson maybe won't be too happy about it, but the RB team consolidating their points, it feels like, with Hadjar getting both of his pit stops done. Piastri now comes in for McLaren a lap later than Lando. Oh, and it's a slow stop for Piastri. One of the rear tyres was a problem there, because the onboard that we had, both of the front tyres were on, but he still wasn't able to go. Piastri then sees Lando Norris come by him. Hamilton is still quite far adrift. And now Piastri, is that going to drop him behind Verstappen though? He did lose a couple of seconds there in the pit stop. And needs good pace on the outlap, he is told. Piastri is going to then get his head down and needs to go for it right away. So Isaac Hadjar has pitted twice. Ollie Behrman has pitted twice. But we've still got the likes of Lawson, Albon, Sainz, Russell, Antonelli, who have yet to have pit at all. And Tsunoda has pitted once in that 14th place spot. So it is all going to switch around once these pit stops come. It's just whether or not the pit stops come under any kind of safety car or not. These cars running very long, it feels like, compared to the rest. You look at Isaac Hadjar, couple of laps on the softs. Thank you very much. Back in again. And what does Leclerc do? Both of the McLarens have come in. And looking at the pace, Charles Leclerc 1:15.7, Lando Norris a 1:15.2 as he's just come across the start-finish line. What's Oscar Piastri's pace like? Just coming across. Oh no, that was Piastri's outlap, wasn't it? So we won't get a proper look at Piastri's pace as of yet. How much time is lost in the pit stops? About 20 seconds, just under 20 seconds if it's done perfectly. Box, box, Charles Leclerc, box, box. So it does look like Leclerc is going to respond and is going to come in trying to cover off Oscar Piastri, who has pitted. So Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri both completed their first stops. Charles Leclerc now matching them. And Piastri, I think, will still be behind Leclerc after this pit stop. I don't think it's been an insanely quick couple of laps from Piastri in any way. Leclerc did have quite a gap to Piastri before the pit stops as it was. And yeah, here comes Leclerc. Piastri still not in the picture as of yet. Lando Norris, though, is going to continue on into the lead of the race. Charles Leclerc comes out of the pits. And Piastri just past the start-finish line as Charles Leclerc makes his way through and around turn 1. So Leclerc does keep himself ahead of Piastri, even with Piastri setting a 1:13.8. So it was a ridiculously quick lap time from Piastri, but covered off by Leclerc. And not too much they could do at McLaren there. They needed Leclerc to stay out another few laps for that to play into their favour. Isaac Hadjar, where's he? He's in a load of clean air again, Isaac Hadjar. And is having a lovely little time. Esteban Ocon is stuck behind Fernando Alonso. Alonso is 15 seconds adrift of Lewis Hamilton. Just looking at where Isaac Hadjar is from Hamilton, because Hamilton has pitted. Hadjar is 25 seconds off Hamilton, so Hamilton would still come out ahead of Hadjar as it stands. Hadjar 1:16.3, Hamilton a 1:15.0. So it does look like that front five have kind of sectioned themselves out from Hadjar, who's running effectively 6th at the moment. Then there's this group of 3 in Hadjar, Alonso and Ocon. Then another big gap to Liam Lawson behind. And there we go. Piastri is being told that plan didn't really work. So next plan is to just keep yourself in line. Make sure you're right there with Charles Leclerc if needs be, and keep that safety car gap to Hamilton. So that's what they're planning on doing. Hamilton is 6 seconds off the back of Oscar Piastri. So Piastri needs to get a little bit of a move on. Max Verstappen showing the last 4 laps in comparison to Behrman for some reason, although Behrman on a completely different strategy has already stopped twice and is 71 seconds off the leader. Verstappen continuing on though. Verstappen goes straight past the pit entrance once again, is leading this race now. And a 1:15.1 from Verstappen. 1:20.0 from Leclerc. Although that might have been his outlap. Let's see. Comes across the start-finish line. That's more like it. 1:16 dead. A 1:15.4 from Piastri. So Piastri is gaining on the back of Leclerc. But second pit stop will need to go in his favour. Oh, lap time deleted from Charles Leclerc, actually, for a track limits infringement at turn 10. So Charles Leclerc must have gone across turn 10 rather than round it. And yet still dropped 0.6 of a second to Piastri, having obviously had to slow down to not look like he's gaining too much of an advantage. And Lawson in 9th spot is causing a lot of headaches for those guys behind. Lawson, Albon, Sainz, Russell, Antonelli still yet to have pitted. We're seeing Tsunoda has caught up to the back of that pack. Bortoletto's caught up to the back of that pack. They've all pitted once. So Lawson is really, really causing a cork in the bottle at the minute in terms of those final point scoring places. Isaac Hadjar has stopped twice, remember. So we're keeping an eye on his pace compared to the likes of Alonso and Ocon. He's in that little group of 3. Verstappen still hasn't pitted. It's continued on once more. Verstappen trying to get ahead of Oscar Piastri, remember, is in 4th place. Was very close to taking Oscar Piastri at turn 1. Didn't quite get it done. Oh. And there we are. As the team game starting to be played, George Russell on the radio saying Sainz is starting to back off. And I think Williams have realised that they were in this pack and that RB have kind of played them a little bit. So now starting to play a game of their own. Carlos Sainz starting to back up the rest of this group. Alex Albon then hopefully being released in front. Carlos Sainz playing that team game, knowing that there's only really 1 point on the line for them, right? It's not going to be likely that Albon and Sainz both get into the points. And the two-stop strategy is starting to not really play too much, as it is starting to actually, instead of playing into whether or not the tyres will last long enough, and we thought, the two-stop strategy would mean everybody would go all out and just try and burn through their rubber because they know they get to use another set. Instead, all we're seeing is teams playing games. We're seeing Lawson back up the whole pack so that Hadjar can remain pretty. We're seeing Sainz now backing up the rest of the field outside of the point scoring places so that Albon can be released in front. I mean, Carlos Sainz has suddenly dropped to 6.5 seconds adrift of Alex Albon. Like, that is just not where you want to be. Bortoletto has come in to the pits to get his second stop out of the way, I think. So is Colapinto as well. They've had enough of being behind Yuki Tsunoda and Carlos Sainz in this train. Max is losing so much time. Yeah, he is. But Red Bull gambling, I feel like. They know that they're in this sort of top 5 gaggle. Because you look at Lewis... Well, I don't know, actually. Lewis Hamilton has stopped once, and Hamilton is now 21 seconds adrift. Verstappen could actually be overtaken by Lewis Hamilton in this, and they were trying to play it so that they could get ahead of Piastri, and they could actually lose out to Hamilton instead. So that could be absolutely disastrous for those two. Looking at where Ocon and Alonso are, they need to kind of have a little bit of a hurry up. Isaac Hadjar has elongated the gap a touch, but 20 seconds on top of Alonso would be 68, and that would actually put him behind Albon at this point. So Alonso also needs to go for it, although, as I say, Lawson and Albon yet to have stopped. So here comes Max Verstappen then, and is Verstappen still going to get ahead of Hamilton in this? Hamilton is dealing with some back markers. There's Bortoletto and Colapinto ahead. Piastri is dealt with Colapinto. Verstappen is coming out of the pits. Here comes Piastri battling with Bortoletto. Bortoletto having to get out of the way of him. And Verstappen is going to come out in front of Hamilton, but it's not by much. Hamilton is right at the bottom of the picture as Max Verstappen comes out of the pits. And I think Red Bull had to do that when they did, because Verstappen was losing time to Hamilton there. And Verstappen now 14 seconds off the lead, a couple of seconds ahead of Hamilton. I think they timed that just about right. Watching an onboard of Ollie Behrman as Ollie Behrman tries to make his way around Lance Stroll. Doesn't quite get it done, and Ollie Behrman has to sit behind the Aston Martin for a little longer. Behrman has pitted for a second time, remember. Oh, and here comes Esteban Ocon. Ocon is now pitting for a second time. He's trying to get himself out in this gaggle. He knows he's not going to be ahead of Hadjar or anyone like that, but maybe he's just sick and tired of seeing the back of Fernando Alonso's car. So Esteban Ocon has now pitted. Alonso should be guaranteed points where he is, but Ocon now trying to get the undercut on him if possible. So Ocon has come out in 10th place because of that Carlos Sainz train that he has done there. That's opened a gap for Ocon to pit into. Quite lovely for Esteban Ocon. Lando Norris now asking on the radio, why are there no blue flags? And he has hit the back of an absolutely horror train, has Lando Norris. He's now caught up to the back of this Carlos Sainz conundrum. So Sainz is backing up this whole train of cars, and Lando Norris is trying his best to make his way through it. Behrman and Stroll dispatched, but he's still got Hulkenberg and Tsunoda, Antonelli, Russell and Sainz to get past as well, has our race leader. And all of this backing up and all of the tyre troubles that people are going through. Always Ollie Behrman sends his Haas over the curb and into the air. Think he's going to continue on okay, though. Charles Leclerc has now also just joined the back of this train. Yeah, this has not played into those guys that pitted early first time. So your Tsunodas and Behrmans, this has just not played into their hands at all, because Carlos Sainz has started to back the whole lot up. Actually, no, Ollie Behrman's pitted a second time, hasn't he? So Ollie Behrman could gain some positions, maybe up to about 11th. But then from there, it's going to be fiddly. Carlos Sainz effectively just splitting the track, to be honest, because Carlos Sainz backing up this whole train of cars just means the top 10 are effectively guaranteed at this point. So he's Williams. The fact that the Williams cars were side by side in 10th and 11th has basically ended any kind of jeopardy in this race, to be honest, because Carlos Sainz has backed up everybody outside of the points. The point scoring standings are going to be pretty much where they are because everybody is going to be able to pit when they need to and into the space that they want to, as Lando Norris now finally gets past Carlos Sainz and through that back marker traffic. So Carlos Sainz is now a lap down on the leaders. And Charles Leclerc on the radio also complaining about the amount of sheer traffic that there is from Sainz backwards. But where can they go? You know, they can't really get out of the way of Charles Leclerc. There's only one real racing line. There's a couple of corners where they can go past, and that's about it. Merck's lapped, and they've yet to pit. Oh, yeah, the Mercs have absolutely been crushed by this sort of double. They were caught in the Liam Lawson train, and now they're caught in the Carlos Sainz train, and those two teams, the fact that RB and Williams have just played this perfectly for themselves effectively, it's just completely ended any kind of strategic decision-making in terms of the points. We're not even halfway through the race as well, and we've got the entirety of the back nine all having been lapped. Here comes Liam Lawson. Lawson is finally going to pit. I think he's still going to come out ahead of Carlos Sainz in all of this, though. So Lawson, Lawson surely is going to come out ahead of Sainz, otherwise they wouldn't have pitted him. Yep, Lawson does indeed come out ahead of Carlos Sainz. Gets that first pit stop done onto the soft compound tyres as well. Max Verstappen complaining about his gear shifts not quite lining up where he would want them to be. Has escaped away from Lewis Hamilton, though. 4 seconds now, the gap between Verstappen and Hamilton. It's looking like that top 5 is set in stone as it is, to be honest. Charles Leclerc, having dealt with all the traffic that Lando Norris dealt with, is now also 6 seconds off the lead. Piastri is trying to fight his way through the Carlos Sainz train as well. Half the grid is lapped. It's only because they've literally played it that way. Like, Carlos Sainz was matching the top 10 in terms of lap times and then was told by the Williams team, you know what, Carlos, we can absolutely guarantee Albon scores points here if you just do 3 seconds off the pace. So he has indeed done that, and Carlos Sainz has opened this gap for him to go. Albon has come out behind Lawson, which is where he would have expected to be. He's still ahead of his teammate. And that's what I mean. Carlos Sainz, by slowing down by sort of 2-3 seconds a lap, has just got his teammate a completely free pit stop, because Albon was in 10th, pitted, and is still in 10th. And the rest of the cars behind, you're looking at Russell, Antonelli, and his teammate Carlos Sainz are still yet to have pitted. So Yuki Tsunoda pitting early, that's completely nullified that. Nico Hülkenberg pitting early, completely nullified that. Ollie Behrman pitting twice early, completely nullified that as well. So, yeah, you know, Carlos Sainz has just done a job effectively in completely closing down any kind of strategic maneuvers behind. And I mean, when you've got a teammate that can literally just do the job for you, it's not too bad at all, is it? A little bit of a weird one, but it is what it is. Stroll, do your thing. Poor Stroll. Feel bad for him sometimes. He does get a little bit of a bad rep, doesn't he? 6.5 seconds, the gap between Lando Norris and Charles Leclerc after all of that chaos. They have both finally got through all of it, but still all a bit strange for that front two. Oscar Piastri's also nearly there. He's got Liam Lawson left to go, hasn't he, in terms of the lapped cars. So Piastri is nearly through, but not quite yet. I just joined, so could you tell me what's happened so far? Yes. Liam Lawson made a big train so that Isaac Hadjar could stay inside of the points. And then Carlos Sainz made a big train so that Alex Albon could stay inside of the points. Everybody else has kind of shuffled into where you'd expect them to be. The only driver who's been able to make up any kind of positions is Lewis Hamilton, and that's because he was able to get the pit stop advantage because he is just in a much faster car than the likes of Alonso, Hadjar, and Ocon behind. And that's kind of it. Really, nothing really else has happened. Hello, not applicable. Hello, Mini Med JD. How's it going? The strategy has been done, though, isn't it? And just feels like we are now entering the Carlos Sainz train period. Carlos Sainz still, by the way, holding up the rest of the field, trying to get Alex Albon a second free pit stop. Albon is 6 seconds ahead of his teammate. So Carlos Sainz just needs to do this for another 5-6 laps because he's kind of 2-3 seconds adrift of his teammate. Yeah, 3 seconds adrift of his teammate on that last lap. So Carlos Sainz does this for another 5 laps. And then Alex Albon's guaranteed 10th place because he can do that 2-stop. Here comes Bortoleto then for a 3rd time in this race. I mean, I suppose he did have a crash where he needed a new front wing. So that first pit stop maybe doesn't count so much, but you wouldn't think he'd need another set of tyres, Gabriel Bortoleto. Hope this strategy works out for Hadjar. Looks perfect for Isaac Hadjar. Hadjar's flying right now. He's still going to gain that position back on Fernando Alonso, so Hadjar is all set for a 6th place finish because he's 10 seconds off the back. Esteban Ocon has done actually really well because Esteban Ocon would gain a position on Alonso as well at the moment. So Alonso would drop down to 8th place when he pits. What happened to Gasly? Gasly hit into the back of Yuki Tsunoda after he had brake problems down in towards turn 10. Broke his front wing and front left suspension, so out of the race fairly early on. And I imagine for him quite nicely because otherwise he'd be in this gaggle of cars behind Carlos Sainz and just hitting his head against the wall, I would imagine. Lando Norris, 5 point... Oh! Fernando Alonso has got a problem, and Fernando Alonso... Oh my God, is this man cursed? How is this man so cursed? He was guaranteed points. Guaranteed points was Fernando Alonso. And, I mean, he said he was the unluckiest man in Formula One last time out. This has to be even more unlucky, surely. Oh my goodness me. Fernando Alonso, what has happened there? So Alonso is now going to fall backwards. That now puts Carlos Sainz in the points. But Carlos Sainz is going to have to pit twice. So that actually puts Yuki Tsunoda in the points. So Tsunoda now looking good for a final point scoring finish. Alonso did peel off to an escape road, so doesn't look like there's going to be any kind of safety car or anything like that for Fernando Alonso. And well and truly the most unlucky driver in Formula One. Oh my goodness me. Fernando, what can he do? Gets halfway through the race. Points guaranteed. He was going to finish 8th as it was right then. Was easily running in 8th place. Goodness me. And Lando is being told to do a little bit of a hurry up by the looks of things. So Lando Norris now upping the pace inside of his McLaren car. Still a little bit slower than Charles Leclerc by 1,000th of a second, but slower nonetheless. Ferrari now trying to put McLaren under pressure. A little bit of a dummy from Ferrari. They sent out their engineers and then they all came right back in again. Does just feel like, as much as I shouldn't say it, as I am literally streaming it and, you know, trying to sell this race, does look like it's kind of done, guys. Who did Alonso piss off to be this lucky? Yeah, exactly. Alonso, like, I don't know what Alonso did in a past life, but he's done something as Fernando Alonso because he is just so unlucky. It is untrue. Like, he is easily the most unlucky driver that there has ever been, surely. I don't know how he's this unlucky. Like, it's insane. But he is out. No safety car because of it, though. He did manage to at least come to a stop in one of the safe areas of the track. So that is Gasly and Alonso now in and back out again. Neon track on the wall is Singapore. That is correct. It is Singapore. Old style Singapore, though. Soon to be correct Singapore. But it is just Carlos Sainz still eking out. Just seeing, yeah, he's now 19, 20 seconds adrift of Albon. So Albon will box this lap. Was that 5 laps? Did I manage to predict that perfectly? I think so. Like, it was 5 or 6 laps, and then Carlos Sainz has just been 3 seconds a lap slower, every single one of those. Gap to 20 seconds. Albon in will get out just in front of Carlos Sainz and will guarantee himself some points. Lawson doing the same. I think Lawson realizing that he can sort of use the Williams cars to his advantage as well. So Lawson in and back out again. So Lawson is going to be 8th. Albon is going to be 9th. Gets both of those pit stops done. Hadjar, Ocon, Lawson and Albon absolutely spot on. And Carlos Sainz then is running in 10th place but hasn't yet pitted. Yuki Tsunoda would be the driver to benefit from that. But then Yuki Tsunoda has to pit anyway. So Ollie Behrman might be looking at a point here. Because Ollie Behrman has caught up to the back of this pack. He's done both of his stops. Sainz is going to have to stop twice. Russell's going to have to stop twice. Antonelli's going to have to stop twice. Tsunoda's got to stop. Hulkenberg's got to stop. Stroll's got to stop. So Behrman, as long as he can hold this pace, and as long as his tyres don't completely burst into oblivion, considering he's already done 23 laps on them, and he's still got 36 left to go, Ollie Behrman is on for a point here. Starting in 20th place. Have Merck forgotten they have to pit twice? And no, they've just kind of been played, to be honest. They had no opportunity to pit early, so they kind of just had to deal with that fact. And then Yuki Tsunoda caught up to the back of them. And then they're like, well, maybe we'll wait for a safety car or something like that. That didn't come. And then Carlos Sainz decided to slam on the air brake and just completely slow down that entire pack of cars, basically to try and guarantee Albon a point. And now he's going to guarantee Albon 2 points because Fernando Alonso has dropped out of that top 10. Cannot see Ollie not pitting again. It's going to be tough, isn't it? It's going to be really, really tough. I mean, he hasn't, got to do any ridiculous pace. He has just got to hold on to the back of this kind of group of cars. But now that Albon has pitted twice, Carlos Sainz might up the pace a little bit. So that's the only thing that could play against them here, is if he does start to sort of turn up the heat, then we could see Albon. Oh, Albon has released Carlos Sainz. Oh, I see what they're doing. This is madness from Williams, by the way. Albon has just let Carlos Sainz overtake him, so Carlos Sainz can now go, and Albon can hold up the rest of the pack. So Williams could guarantee themselves 3 points here. So it isn't going to be Ollie Behrman at all that picks up that. Wow. Okay. I didn't even see that from Williams. That is a brilliant plan from Williams, but that is insane. The fact that you could do that because overtaking is just an absolute no-go. Big brain indeed from Williams. That is a masterstroke from Williams. How did I miss that? I was trying to work out all the permutations. I was like, oh yeah, this will open up the door a little bit for maybe Ollie Behrman to get in there, blah, blah, blah. Nope. Williams. James Vowles is on it. He has realised he can absolutely master plan this. Alex is now good until the end of the race. Alex can now also just do as slower lap times as needed to allow Carlos Sainz. It does mean that Carlos Sainz, unless they do a swap at the end. Ooh. Wow. James Vowles literally pointing out the fact that all they've done is abuse the two-stop rule. And like he's well aware that he's effectively ruined this race for everybody who's from 9th place backwards, to be honest. But Williams have just done that to benefit themselves. And why wouldn't you, you know? If you've got your two cars starting side by side inside of the point scoring places, why would you not? We've seen it from Lawson as well. Lawson has done the same thing. I think this is a masterstroke from the Williams setup. I think they've done brilliantly. Sainz has no stops. Sainz, yeah, but Sainz is now going to get an easy gap because Alex Albon is just going to hold up the rest of the pack. Like Carlos Sainz is doing 1:15s. Alex Albon is doing 1:18s. And therefore, everybody behind Alex Albon is also doing 1:18s. Like, nobody can get past Alex Albon. He's going to be able to sweep up because Alex Albon's on fresher tyres than everybody else behind him. So, he's just giving all of that time to his teammate. Nico Hülkenberg has decided he's had enough. He's going to come in and pit for a second time. He's going to go right to the back of the pack, but at least is going to have some clean air and maybe do some fun laps for themselves. But yeah, James Vowles sticking the finger right in the eye of the FIA. He has completely shifted the way that I was thinking about this race. And you have to say, worth it. Like, absolutely worth it. And it's interesting that obviously James Vowles used to work at Mercedes, and the two Mercedes cars are the ones that absolutely are getting played by this because neither of the Mercedes cars has pitted yet. We could easily see the Mercedes cars 17th and 18th. In fact, they are running 17th and 18th right now because they still need to pit twice more. I respect it, but it's crap. Oh, yeah. This is the absolute shithousery that we are going to see if we see this kind of strategy again in Monaco. It is complete and utter disrespect for the idea behind this rule change. Lando Norris is again catching up to the back of this pack, by the way. So we are going to see probably everyone from Hadjar backwards being lapped again. Oh no, Hadjar's a little bit further up. Where are we talking? From Lawson backwards. We're going to see everyone from Lawson backwards being lapped again. Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc 6 seconds behind, Piastri 9 seconds behind. It's looking very good for the championship standings, at least. Should we have a little look at the championship standings? Because there's not really too much going on at the moment. Piastri is still going to lead the championship, but by only 3 points, because Lando Norris is going to close that gap by 10. Verstappen is still going to be third in the championship, but again is starting to just fall away from that top two a little bit every single Grand Prix, isn't he? I know he won in Imola, but if you look over the course of the season, it does just feel like Verstappen is slowly starting to drift away from the back of the two McLarens generally. When things play into their favour, I think the McLaren is just the quicker car. Still definitely in there, though. Russell now, for me, with this 0 points in Monaco, is going to be completely out of the running. He's going to be on 99 points, just 20 points ahead of Charles Leclerc, who's had back-to-back fairly decent weekends. Piastri has decided to pit, by the way. Piastri in for his second stop. So we'll go back to this just as Piastri comes out to see where he's going to slot into. Verstappen has gone past. Hadjar and Ocon have also just gone through as well. Lewis Hamilton is just coming around the final corner, but Piastri has now pitted and completed his 2 stops that we need. And Max is now being given the hurry up. Although Max Verstappen, unfortunately, is going to be hurried up into the back of Hulkenberg. So don't think that Max is going to be able to do too much from that position, honestly. George Russell is agonisingly behind another Williams rear wing. He's just having to sit there and take it. Verstappen on the radio. Being given the go-ahead and saying that we do have a safety car window over them. So if there is a safety car, then it possibly will play into Verstappen's hands and give him a podium over Piastri. Leclerc comes in to cover off Piastri. So Ferrari taking no gambles and feeling like second place is what they are after this afternoon. That does mean Max Verstappen is released through. And it's whether or not Lando Norris, having now made his way all the way through all of that traffic, is finally ahead of Alex Albon once again, is Lando Norris. Whether he decides to come in and pit or whether he just stays out on the hard compound tyres for a little bit longer. It's got a 23-second gap to Leclerc, but Leclerc is going to catch up to the back of all of that traffic, and that might be the opportunity for Lando Norris to strike when Leclerc does lose all of that time. George Russell goes straight on at the chicane. Gets a track limits infringement. Surely we'll have to give that place back to Alex Albon. Although Carlos Sainz is now pitting. And maybe George Russell's trying to play a little game of his own here. Nope, Lando Norris is going to pit though. So Lando Norris has covered it off. I think George Russell just taking maybe a 5-second penalty for not giving the position back. Because Russell has gone very deep, but has gone through it. Russell hasn't actually come out in front of Sainz, though, has he? No. I think George Russell is just taking the 10-second penalty, which is absolutely mad. Well, the fact that taking a 10-second penalty and just gaining an advantage that way would actually play into your favour. I think if they'd have done it much earlier on, then this would have maybe been a thing. But I think George Russell, too late at this point. Will Antonelli do the same thing? Down at turn 10, will Antonelli just decide to not hand Carlos Sainz those points? Although Carlos Sainz has already done a pit stop, so it's too late. And Albon on the radio. I think intentional corner cutting is worse. Oh, okay. I mean, there is a plethora of penalties that the stewards could decide to give. Red Bull, Max Verstappen now leads once again. Norris did manage to get out in front of Leclerc and Piastri, so it is still second, third, and fourth for them, having stopped twice. Verstappen has stopped once. Hamilton has only stopped once. Carlos Sainz is the next driver to still need to stop. And Kimi Antonelli also cutting the corner there. And yeah, Russell literally so bored of being behind a Williams car. Literally says on the radio, I'll just take the penalty. So if there's any confirmation that you needed that Alex Albon and Carlos Sainz have just completely ruined the afternoon of Mercedes, there it is, because George Russell has had enough. And he knows he's got to pit a second time anyway. It's never, ever going to happen. And Russell's just going to take a penalty and probably finish it. Well, he would have finished this race last anyway. So he's just saying, I'll finish last. I don't care. I just want to have an actual little bit of the race where I'm not sitting behind a Williams going 4 seconds off the pace. Oh my goodness me, George Russell. Yeah, everyone up to Isaac Hadjar is indeed lapped at this point. I mean, the pace of the front runners has been that good anyway. Oh, giving George Russell a drive-through penalty. Oh my goodness. Oh, that is so harsh from the FIA. He is given it. Oh, the stewards. They have given him a drive-through. Oh my goodness. And Kimi Antonelli does exactly the same thing, just drives straight at turn 10, overtakes Alex Albon, but he nearly hit the wall on the outside. That could have been a safety car if Kimi Antonelli would have collected the wall, but Kimi Antonelli actually does give that position back. I think has been told on the radio maybe that George Russell got given a drive-through penalty and has been like, yeah, Kimi, maybe don't do that. I know George did it, but it's maybe not what we want to do to match him, to be honest. Oops. Oh, Antonelli's just given Tsunoda a position. Was Antonelli just caught out? Yeah, there you go. Drive-through penalty for leaving the track and gaining an advantage has come in on the investigation sheet. Has given Yuki Tsunoda a place, though, as Antonelli, unless Tsunoda's going to give that... Oh, no. Tsunoda not quite. Goodness gracious. That is so harsh, though, isn't it? That is so harsh. I mean, it makes sense. They had to give him a penalty. But Russell and Antonelli still haven't stopped yet. Verstappen, Hamilton, Sainz, Tsunoda, and Stroll also need to stop again. Everybody else has completed their mandatory 2 stops. But yeah, the debrief of this race is going to be ridiculous. Like, how on earth are the stewards and the FIA going to justify this? The fact that the entire race has effectively been manipulated by Lawson initially, and then Sainz and Albon. Like, the entire race, or at least for the midfield pack anyway, I know that the front runners have kind of done their own thing. And to be fair, the front runners have done their own thing and it hasn't affected them. They've still finished in the order that they should. But then behind that, Lawson completely manipulated it so that Isaac Hadjar could stop twice and still be best of the rest. Okay, Fernando Alonso dropped out of the race, so that made it a little bit more interesting for 10th place. But it hasn't, because then we have the 2 Williams cars that have also just played the game. Carlos Sainz backed up the whole pack to allow Alex Albon to pit twice for free. And now Alex Albon is backing up the whole pack to allow Carlos Sainz to pit for free. George Russell's now going to have to box for his penalty, by the way. So George Russell is now going to pit. And Carlos Sainz also pits as well. So Sainz is going to pit. And I think Alex Albon has escaped away from Kimi Antonelli in all of this. Are they hoping that Alex Albon will come out ahead of Carlos Sainz anyway, so they won't have to do any kind of driver swap? Quite possibly. And yeah, Sainz... Oh no, Sainz is going to be well ahead of Albon, even with that gap. So Sainz does come out ahead of Alex Albon. Alex Albon then still in 11th place because George Russell came in and pitted. Okay. But George Russell needs to pit again anyway. So Sainz is done with his stops. Russell has got to stop again. So yeah, Albon is going to inherit that 10th place. And Williams have just played the perfect team game. They've got both of their cars up into the points. RB can also kind of thank Williams because Lawson might have been under pressure at one point or another. But Lawson has just been able to inherit 8th place. I mean, the only thing, yeah, would be a red flag. That would be the only thing that would change because then Verstappen would be winning this race, effectively. So that is the only thing that could change any kind of order here. Also, Lewis Hamilton, I guess, could benefit. No, wouldn't benefit, would he? Because he's in 5th anyway, and he'd pit and come out in 5th. So Hamilton is going to box because his race is effectively over and done with from where he is. Hadjar and Ocon do make their way past Lewis Hamilton in the pits, but they are still a lap down on Hamilton in the pits. So Hamilton is going to come out in 5th place, and that's going to be all sorted. George Russell then just needs to pit from 10th. Still needs to pit twice, does George Russell, because he came in and did his drive-through penalty. Verstappen is hoping on a red flag. .78 laps. So 22 laps left to go. So a red flag could most certainly happen. Like, we've seen drivers make problems for themselves and put into barriers. The spirit of win attracts Lewis. Can I give you a quick overview as what happened until now? Sure. Gasly hit into the back of Yuki Tsunoda. That was quite interesting. And then Lawson just created a massive gap so that Isaac Hadjar could pit twice fairly comfortably. That also allowed Ocon to pit twice fairly comfortably and Alonso to pit Alonso only pitted once, but then Alonso had a problem anyway. So Alonso then dropped out of it. And then Carlos Sainz and Alex Albon decided to do the same kind of thing for Williams to guarantee themselves their points. So Carlos Sainz made a huge train to slow down everyone outside of the top 10 to allow Alex Albon to pit twice for free. And then Alex Albon then swapped places with Carlos Sainz so that Alex Albon could drop backwards and allow Carlos Sainz to pit twice for free. And then the most entertaining thing that's happened is George Russell went against the FIA, just decided to cut the corner, having been stuck behind a Williams for 50-odd laps. A Williams, by the way, that has been doing like 3 seconds off the pace for 50-odd laps. And then is now taking a drive-through penalty. So still has to pit twice. So Russell is going to surely finish this race miles behind everybody else. What position is Tsunoda? 13th. Although he will probably gain on Russell and Antonelli, so 11th, which is a bit frustrating for Yuki Tsunoda. Oh no, Tsunoda still has to pit, sorry. So Tsunoda is going to be like 16th, 17th? No, 15th. Monaco needs to be binned. Yeah, this is it's a tedious end, I would say, to this race, unfortunately. There's not really too much left to play out. There's no real strategic advantages coming either way. There's not really going to be any kind of changes around. The only thing, as I say, that would change anything is were there to be a red flag, Max Verstappen would probably inherit the victory. Well, would inherit the victory because they'd be able to swap those tyres under the safety car, even though Lando Norris and Charles Leclerc have caught up to the back of Max Verstappen. So Verstappen's not going quickly by any means, but Verstappen just hoping for a red flag. Maybe he can cause his own red flag. He's going to start weaving around and try and put Lando Norris off. And then Lando Norris might bump into a barrier somewhere. Yeah, Verstappen's got, well, I don't know, actually. How long is... Oh, no, the gap to Hamilton is 51 seconds. Yeah, Max Verstappen's got absolutely nothing to lose by just staying out until the last lap of the race and hoping that something bad happens to the guys behind. Leclerc and Lando, though, there is a little bit of something to play for. So maybe Charles Leclerc will go for a move somewhere. I don't know where, but he could go for a move somewhere. Yes, do that. We need a red flag. It would absolutely ruin Lando Norris's day. Because he would then drop to second. Leclerc would drop to third. Verstappen would win back-to-back races, which would just be insane considering the season that they've had so far. I mean, we can look at the championship. If Verstappen were to go on to win this race, he'd be right back in it again. As I was saying, I said beforehand when Norris was leading, I think Verstappen would be far enough off the top two that we're starting to look at, snookers needed for Max Verstappen, to mix my sports metaphors. But I think, a lot would have to play into Max Verstappen's favour, such as a red flag. So red flag for Verstappen here would completely change the complexion, because then he'd only be 2 points off Lando Norris and 9 points off Piastri. So he'd be one win away if he did go on to win in Spain, which is not outside the realms of possibilities. Max Verstappen is very swift when it comes to the Spanish Grand Prix circuit. He would almost likely take the lead of the championship, Max Verstappen, if he won here in Monaco and in Spain. It would be 3 wins in a row, so the kind of form you need to take the lead of a championship, but still. New rule for two-stop made blocking plan for teammate change tyres. Exactly, yeah. RB and Williams have been the 2 talking points here. They have just completely blocked off anything else from happening. Let's do our race until the last lap. You never know what can happen. Carlos Sainz coming on the radio, saying maybe I'm not going to let Alex Albon past. Alex Albon probably won't be too happy about that. I mean, he can't let him past at the moment because George Russell is right there behind. So, although Russell, again, does need to pit twice. So, it's not really happening. Good, though, for Isaac Hadjar. Hadjar was going to move up to 10th place in the standings. Albon likely to get a couple of points to move up to 42. So, it's looking all good for Hadjar and Albon in this one today. Ocon and Lawson will also be rubbing their hands together with some points. Mercedes are such big losers from all of this. Sorry, I was just having a look at the championship. The timings aren't really that much more exciting. Hamilton's gap is increasing. Yeah, I think Hamilton would just be taking it easy at this point, right? Hamilton's literally got 0 to play for, because 20 seconds would be Max Verstappen's pit stop. So unless Hamilton can make up 32 seconds in 15 laps, he's got absolutely 0 to play for. Hadjar's done as long as he can keep Ocon behind, but Ocon's slotted in a second off. Lawson's then 5 seconds adrift. Carlos Sainz another 41 seconds behind Liam Lawson. And that's what I mean by this Williams gap that they've just created for themselves. You can just see the huge gaps. Like Lawson and Hadjar were the ones to make that gap. That's why there's a 60-second gap between Hadjar and Hamilton, because that was effectively forced by Liam Lawson. And then you see the second gap was forced by the Williamses, hence why Carlos Sainz has got a 41-second gap to Liam Lawson ahead. These are not, these are like artificial gaps, if you know what I mean. They're not actual gaps in terms of timings. So the pace of the cars has not been reflective. It's just 2 teams, RB and Williams, have effectively manufactured 40-second gaps in the timing sheets. And then by making that 40-second gap, they've allowed themselves to pit twice easily. And that's why that 40-second gap is there. But it's just insane, isn't it? Charles Leclerc, though, not letting Lando Norris off easy. And this is the thing. Max Verstappen at least, is trying to force a red flag. Charles Leclerc and Lando Norris could easily be the ones to do that, because Max Verstappen will be trying to hold them up, trying to cause a little bit of chaos. Lando Norris has allowed Verstappen to have a little bit of a gap, maybe just for some clean air. But Leclerc is right underneath the rear wing of Lando Norris. George Russell has been finally told to actually pit. So Russell is going to pit and fall. Antonelli has been making a gap for his teammate. I suppose the Mercedes team learned from the best, really. They're copying the Williams strategy here by keeping Antonelli all the way back. And George Russell is going to be released in front of his teammate. Although they're going to have to do it again because Russell needs to pit another time, having had a drive-through penalty. And Antonelli still needs to pit twice. Tsunoda still needs to pit again. Stroll needs to pit again. So Ollie Behrman, had the Williams team not played this little bit of a game, Ollie Behrman would have been good for a point or two possibly. Not going to be the case now though anymore. 17 laps on softs is insane. I think, to be honest, you could have run the entire race on a set of... I think you could have done 78 laps on a set of hards or mediums. I don't think the tyre degradation is there on any of these sets of tyres. You're seeing Antonelli and Tsunoda on 62 laps and 61 laps, respectively, on their hard compound tyres. I think you could have run the whole race quite comfortably on a set of mediums if you really, really wanted to. What would Verstappen's punishment be if he actually doesn't pit for a second time? It'd be disqualification because it's in the criteria, it's in the rules. So it would be a disqualification. I was going to say it might be something different, but because they've actually written in the two-stop, mandatory two-stop, it would be a disqualification. Carlos Sainz being told to swap positions with Alex. They are all by themselves, both of the Williams cars now, because Russell has pitted. So Russell is behind those two. Sainz is just coming around turn 8 with his teammate Alex Albon there. So interesting to see where they do decide to swap. Surely after turn 11. Swap back where they swapped in the first place. Sainz then slows down. Albon gives him a little bit of a wave and does indeed get that 9th place position back. So 3 points for Williams in 9th and 10th place. The fact that Fernando Alonso gave them an extra point score in place as well is just... That's then made the backing off of Alex Albon into play, right? I don't think they would have done the Albon play in the same way that they did the Sainz play earlier. But the fact that Fernando Alonso came to a stop meant that both of them could inherit a point score in place, has allowed the Williams team to just be like, yeah, both of us can do that. Have I heard of Crashgate? Yes. We need Crashgate 2.0. Lawson, sacrifice yourself. Surely Tsunoda would be the one to sacrifice himself at this point. Tsunoda could also make it look like he was trying to do an overtake. Like, if anybody's going to crash gate, it should be Tsunoda to allow Max Verstappen the red flag and the victory. If you don't pit, you get 30 seconds added to your time. Yeah, but I think it would be different this time around, wouldn't it? Because they've changed the legislation completely, I think it would be a disqualification. Because otherwise you just do 0 stops. And then you take the 60-second penalty, possibly. That's a genuine strategy, as ridiculous as it sounds. Because you look, Isaac Hadjar is 60 seconds off Hamilton. So if you were... who did... Oh, no, because Lawson had that backing off. So that didn't really play out. If someone were between Hamilton and Hadjar and had 0 stops... but was closer to Hamilton than Hadjar. Although I suppose they'd be on like 68 lap old tyres, so that would be a little bit of a weird one. Yeah, I don't really know how they'd play that, because you could quite comfortably get a 60-second gap, especially when these gaps are being imposed artificially. So I just think they'd have to do a disqualification or something if you didn't stop 2 times. I think they'd have to change it. But yeah, as you say, normally it is a 30-second penalty, yeah. But they have used 2 I suppose if you stop once, you've at least hit your tire allocation because you have to use two tires, right? Or did they change that for Monaco as well? I'm getting confused. I'm confusing myself with all of the possible loopholes that there are for this Monaco Grand Prix, which has just been an absolute shambles of ridiculousness. Dear, dear, dear. My left-hand side tyres are dead, says Max Verstappen. Don't worry, Max. You've still got a 54-second gap to the racers that you are running against. Forgetting that Flavio is at Alpine, not at RB. Very true. Yeah, Horner probably doesn't want to... Horner's already, well, supposedly got his job under threat. I don't think that he'd want to put something as bad on the Red Bull name as a Crashgate incident. Doesn't want to get himself a 17-year ban, I think would be the thing. All tyres have to be used. Yeah, I thought it was. I feel like this race has been so long, I've just forgotten everything that needed to happen. Like, it feels like this race has gone on for a millennia. Some cars might explain what happens if you don't pit enough. Very true. I mean, only Verstappen, right? Oh, no, Antonelli hasn't pitted yet. And Sonoda needs to pit once more. Antonelli might just take the 60-second penalty. George Russell setting fastest laps of the race. And Oscar Piastri is now catching up to the back of Leclerc as well. Could we see a little bit of shenanigans here? Could Lando Norris maybe back Leclerc into Oscar? Again, I just don't know if there's any place to overtake. And yeah, Lando Norris realising that Max Verstappen is just holding up the rest of the track, hoping that there's going to be something play. Again, there could still be a red flag. Could still be a red flag. George Russell's box because he's got that 20-second gap to Kimi Antonelli behind. So Antonelli has played the team game as well. So we've had an artificial pit stop window for Hadjar. We've had an artificial pit stop window for both of the Williamses. And we've now had an artificial pit stop window for George Russell as well. So we've had so many just cars going much, much, much slower than they actually needed to go. Or would have wanted to have gone. George Russell and Kimi Antonelli doing that, learning from the Williams team ahead of them. Haven't seen one overtake. Wrong. We saw George Russell do an illegal overtake on Alex Albon. We did see Kimi Antonelli and Gabriel Bortoleto have a bit of a side-by-side. But then that put Bortoleto in the barrier, so didn't really go well. Stay close to this fight in front. Oscar Piastri has been told to close the gap to Charles Leclerc just in case there's any opportunities. Very opportunistic from the McLaren team if they think they're going to be the one team to get an overtake done with a car at actual racing pace here. Leclerc's trying his best, but Leclerc has been half a second behind Norris for, well, as long as I can remember at this point. Oh, the Mercedes crew are in. Is Antonelli actually going to stop? Antonelli not taking the 60-second time penalty and instead deciding to actually come in and change his tyres. You can yawn freely. I know. I feel like my head is just getting really hot. Headphones are just really hot. My head gets really hot and then I yawn. It's not that I'm tired. Just very warm head. Is that interesting commentary? I don't think so. Seeing Max Verstappen still backing up the pack, although Lando Norris has now fallen a couple of seconds adrift of Verstappen himself. Lando Norris then allowing, Lando Norris, I don't know what they're trying to do. Lando Norris is like backed up Charles Leclerc into Piastri, and then Piastri, is going to be within DRS range. So then what? Lando Norris is not going to like disappear up the road 2 seconds ahead of Leclerc, and then Piastri is suddenly going to be in DRS range, is he? It's just the way that it's going to play out. But Piastri does now slot in, just hoping that there's fatigue somewhere in one of these cars, and that Charles Leclerc is going to make a mistake, or that Lando Norris might slip up. Max Verstappen is waiting on the same thing. Didn't say Monegasque to Leclerc. Sorry. Yeah, I forgot. Whenever you refer to Leclerc, you have to call him Monegasque. I do also refer to like all of the other drivers by their nationalities as well. I suppose it's just because you don't hear Monegasque very often. No overtakes yet, unfortunately not. And yeah, the two-stop strategy thing completely backfired. Because, as I say, all of the teams just manufactured themselves 2 stops worth of strategy. Kimi Antonelli is finally pitted for the first time. Now 18th. Kind of tells you. Charles Leclerc saying Lando Norris is making many mistakes at the moment. He probably is, to be honest. He's probably bored, but he is absolutely fine because there is nowhere to get past. Max Verstappen just coming around through turns 15 and 16. Charles Leclerc still right underneath the rear. He is, Charles Leclerc's lap times, I think if he wasn't underneath the rear wing of Lando Norris, would be a lot better. I think the Ferrari has got the pace on the McLaren here in Monaco, but doesn't really matter at this point. Max Verstappen still waiting for the possible opportunity. Is there going to be a red flag? I can't see where it's going to come from, unfortunately. Max Verstappen has got to stop one more time, remember? Yeah, Charles Leclerc does look just so much more racy at this point. Like watching the onboards and watching the rear camera from the McLaren's perspective, had this been any track where there was any overtaking opportunity, just like one overtaking opportunity, I think Leclerc would have won this race. Everyone's managing at this point. That's also true. Maybe Lando Norris is just managing his tyres. But it just looks like Charles Leclerc's got a little bit more about it. Charles Leclerc's has got a little bit more of a window of grip inside of that Ferrari. Is on the mediums, I suppose, compared to the hard compound tyre of Lando Norris as well. But all within a second of each other now, Norris, Leclerc and Piastri. And Lando Norris still leading this race, although it doesn't look like it now. Thank you for subscribing. Loads of new subscribers there. Appreciate that, lads. If you are new here, hit that subscribe button. Trying to get to 130,000 subscribers. We will be live again next weekend for Spain, which I promise there'll be a little bit more to talk about. But for the last sort of 30 laps or so, the top 10 had been pretty much guaranteed. And Lewis Hamilton asking where he is compared to the leader. Hamilton being told he is 48 seconds off the lead. Not really where he would have wanted to be, but at least it's better than the 7th place he started. He has moved up into 5th place. Max Verstappen goes past the start-finish line. Surely is going to pit at the end of this lap. Go for the final lap pit stop. Verstappen will open the door for Lando Norris to take victory here in Monaco. Leclerc had it last year. Piastri again, the bridesmaid, but not the bride. He was second behind Leclerc last year. Has to take the podium place once again this year without taking victory here in Monaco. Will still lead the championship, though. Charles Leclerc still trying to look for a gap. Still agonisingly underneath the rear wing of the McLaren. But there's no mistake from Lando Norris big enough to open a real window for Leclerc to take the position. Max Verstappen is going to pit as we lead on to the final lap of the Grand Prix. The Red Bull takes that right turn between turn 18 and 19. Verstappen is in. He's got 48 seconds to play with. The gap to Lewis Hamilton behind, so he should come out comfortably in 4th place with the Ferrari in 5th. Hadjar, Ocon, Lawson, Albon and Sainz are final point-scoring drivers. George Russell, agonisingly, will finish in 11th place. And it has probably been the most awkward and most horrible afternoon if you are inside of George Russell's car. Behrman will be 12th, Colapinto 13th, Bortoletto, Hulkenberg, Stroll, Tsunoda and Antonelli will all finish the Grand Prix. Fernando Alonso and Pierre Gasly, the 2 drivers that did not make it to the end. We will be live once again next week for the Spanish Grand Prix, and we'll be live in a moment for the members post-race show. If you do want to become a member and support the channel, that'd be absolutely amazing. And as I say, you do get access to an extra post-race show where we'll get to discuss the victory here of Lando Norris in Monaco. He crosses the line and gets his first victory in Monaco, his 2nd victory of the season, and closes that gap to Oscar Piastri at the top of the championship. Charles Leclerc will come home in 2nd place at his home Grand Prix, and Oscar Piastri will finish in 3rd spot. Albon and Sainz are coming across the line to take the checkered flag. The timing screen has now completely had a meltdown because Max Verstappen is going to finish in 4th place. Hamilton is also in 5th place. So Albon and Sainz seemingly getting a little bit of an upgrade on their times, but I think that will play out once the checkered flag comes across. So Albon and Sainz, unfortunately, are not 5th and 6th. It is Verstappen. Hamilton yet to finish, though. Here comes Lewis Hamilton round the final couple of corners. Hamilton takes the checkered flag. That slots him back up into 5th place. Hadjar and Ocon are also the other point-scoring finishers, along with Liam Lawson. We'll just wait for them to cross the finish line so we can actually see the top 10 as it should be. And there we are. Norris, Leclerc, Piastri, Verstappen, Hamilton, Hadjar, Ocon, Lawson, Albon and Sainz, your points scoring finishers. And what a race it has been. Thank you for the super chat right at the end there. Appreciate that. Thank you for everybody who's stuck with it. Felt like a very, very long Monaco Grand Prix after the just ridiculousness of the 2-stop strategy started to play out. There was a lot of teammate shenanigans throughout that Grand Prix. But Lando Norris not part of any of it. Set the fastest lap of the race at the end there as well, just to show he did have a little bit more in the bank maybe when he was behind Max Verstappen. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like, subscribe, all of that good stuff. And I will see you in a moment if you're a member, or if you're not, in a week's time for the Spanish Grand Prix.